Okay, the next teaching tonight is on sex and marriage. Now, other than communication, sex and marriage is one of another big problem. Communication, finances, and sex seems to be the major three. Okay, we're going to talk about sex and marriage. And it says the frequency of passion of sex and marriage is usually a good guide to determining how well the marriage is going. If other areas of the marriage is going well, it will usually show up in a frequency of sexual intimacy. Would you agree? All of you that are married, would you agree? Okay. So if things are not going well, we know from the past that area is probably not going to go well either, is it? Okay? A survey was taken several years ago, in which Christian couples were asked how many times a week they had sex. What do you think the most popular answer was? 1? 2? Who said none? You're right. 0. Most Christian couples do not have sex once a week. They don't. Now, why? Why don't they have sex once a week? You think they would be at least once. Do you know that I counsel people who have not had sex in 10 years?
And they're still married?
And they're still married.
Wow.
Now, I didn't say they were happily married. Being married and being happy in marriage is two separate issues, okay? But it's not uncommon for couples to go weeks. It's not uncommon for couples to go months or years. I know. I'm in a position to know as a counselor. That's one of the reasons that they're here. Now, what causes that? First of all, as what Nicole Echowitas taught in the last class, breakdown in communications where it begins. So, men, review that lesson on communication. Okay? This is where it begins. If your wife does not feel loved by you, you're probably not having a large amount of sex. It's just not happening. Okay? You know, a husband who doesn't feel respected and honored by his wife may actually reject her. Men come in here, and women come in. Women come in complaining, my husband will not have anything to do with me anymore. And the reason that he doesn't, because he feels so disrespected and so dishonored by her. Men come in and say, my wife won't have sex with me anymore. And you know why? Because she feels emotionally disconnected from him. By the way, well, first of all, by the way he talks to her. The breakdown in communication. You know, men are put in touch with their sexual being by feeling honored and respected by their wife. And women are put in touch with their sexual being by feeling, look at this, raise your hand. Look what's connected. See that connection? By feeling emotionally connected to their husband. Okay? That they feel loved by their husband. That puts them in touch with their sexual being. So a woman who does not feel loved by her husband is a woman who's not very sexually aggressive. Okay? Now here's the conversation that usually goes on. You know, the husband saying, you never meet my sexual needs. And she says, if you met my emotional needs, I would meet your sexual needs. And he says, if you meet my sexual needs, I meet your emotional needs. And around it goes. And the frequency of sex becomes less and less and less. You know, usually who's at fault for that? You know who it usually is? It may surprise you coming from a man, but most of the teachings that I teach surprise people because I put the fault on men. I do. Most of the issues that we have in a marriage relationship is because the husband is not doing his job. Almost every relationship where the husband is the spiritual leader of the home and doing his job we have very, very few problems in the relationship. The husband is the spiritual leader. The husband's job is for her to feel emotionally connected to him. And if he does, she will automatically give respect and honor to a man that she feels emotionally connected to. Is there any woman in the house that would disagree with that statement? How many women agree with that statement? Keep on hand raised. I will call that all. Everyone. Everyone agrees with that statement. Men, listen to that. If they feel emotionally connected to you, sex is not a problem. But the problem is, most women do not feel emotionally connected to their husband. So therefore, sex is going to be a problem in the relationship. Now, the husband is the spiritual leader. So it's his job to lead in love. It's all about love. Christ said, love God, love each other. It's all about love. Your job as the spiritual leader of the home, husbands, is to love your wife, where she feels loved by you. You know, I used to define success in many ways, and I asked a lot of men, how do you define success? And a lot of them said, well, if I was the CEO of that company, I would be a successful man. Or if I had $2 million in the bank and when I retire, I could go and travel and do what I wanted to do, I'd be a successful man. If I had this house and that car and this amount of money in the bank, I'd be a successful man. That's almost how I defined success for many, many years. I was chasing the dollar and working hard and long hours. And it wasn't uncommon for me to work 70, 80 hours a week. And wanted to, not because I had to, because I wanted to. I wanted to make a lot of money. Because that's how I define success. Let me tell you how I define success now. How well does my wife and God feel loved by me? That's it. How well does she feel loved by me? Love God, love each other. That's it. Jesus said, if you did these two things, you've done it all. Now, if my job is for her to feel loved by me, and she does not feel loved by me, that cannot be her fault. That's my job. It can't be her fault. That means there's a change for me to make. Husbands, love your wives the way Christ loved the church and give yourself up for her. I need to give myself up. It's indifferent if I did anything wrong or not. It's indifferent if I'm guilty or not. It's indifferent if she should feel that or not. I need to give myself up. I need to make a change in my life, in the way that I talk to her or don't talk to her, and what I do or don't do, so that she does feel loved by me. That's a sacrifice. And that's foreign to most people. It's foreign to most men. And that's why most marriages are in trouble. We husbands do not know our job, period. And that's why the divorce rate is so high. And that's why we're having sexless marriages. That's why men are in pornography, because their wives are not emotionally connected to them. And they're in pornography trying to get their needs met. That's why women are in these romance novels trying to get their needs met. Because we're disconnected from each other. Because husbands are not doing their jobs. I didn't know my job as a husband. I wasn't even a saved man. But I really like sex. Okay? Any men don't like sex? Okay, that's everybody. Everybody likes sex. Okay. Now, here's what I was doing. Because my wife, she was emotionally disconnected from me. And it was not her fault, because I was just a jerk. That's just a fact. I was an number one jerk. Okay? So she did not feel loved by me. So sex obviously became a problem in our marriage. Okay? I mean, we talked about in one teaching, we talked about the mummy, M-U-M-M-Y. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell about that again for somebody who wasn't here. When we first got married, we wore a suit. It's called a birthday suit. And I think most people wear their birthday suits when they first get married. Birthday suits are nice, And for somebody that doesn't know what a birthday suit is, it's nothing. You got nothing on. It's just skin, okay? Now, it wasn't long after that, after about a year, she started adding to her suit. She started dressing up a little bit more. I mean, she put on these flannel panties. You know, flannel and sex don't jive together. They don't kind of click together, you know. So she put on these flannel panties. And, you know, about 6 months later, she started putting on this flannel top to match her flannel panties. And then she got some panties that went a little bit longer. And then she added to her suit, she started wearing long pajamas. And then she started wearing a long top that had sleeves on it. I mean, she keeps dressing up more and more and more. And then she eventually put on a robe that had buttons and a tie on it. And so, you know, then she would take this special blanket, her blankie, and she would take this blanket and she'd wrap up in it. This does not make for good sex. Where are you? Now, why was she all dressed up like that with nowhere to go? Why was she dressed up like that?
Because she didn't want you to touch her.
Bingo. She did not want to be touched. Why did she not want to be? She was guarding herself, wasn't she? She was protecting herself from me, the jerk, who she didn't feel loved by. Because to her, it was just all about sex. That's all the reason you married me, because you want sex from me. And you're not going to get what you want because I don't feel loved by you. Yeah. I'm not going to ask how many's got suits like that. No. Well, so since she would be all wrapped up, our sex is becoming very, very infrequent, right? And I'm complaining all the time, you never want to have sex with me. Just romance me and I might. Romance you? Every time I see you, I try to get a cop a feel. What do you mean? Isn't that romance? She'd be at the kitchen sink and I'm over going, stop it! Stop it! Well, you want me to romance you? Stop it! Stop it! I mean, she did not want me to sit down beside her. She'd be on the couch and I'd go to sit beside her and I'd put my arm around her and she'd get up and go. I said, what's wrong with you? You want romance? I'm trying to be romantic. No, you're not. I know what you want. Well, yeah, that's exactly what I want. You're right. But I'm all confused here. You know, I'm trying to romance her, and she's avoiding the very thing I'm trying to give her. I'm trying to hit a home run every night, and I'm getting struck out. I didn't understand it. It made no sense to me. Well, I learned that romance wasn't copping a feel. Romance wasn't trying to hit a home run. Romance it started with our conversation. Not being right all the time. Being willing to be a sacrificial man. That it not be about sex at all. Not at all. And I learned that the less that I made it about sex, the more she began to feel loved by me, because she felt the only value that she had to me was her body doing a sexual act. And you know, that's the way I treated her. I had to change that. She had to feel valued by me. And it began with conversation, by me valuing the things that she had to say. When women begin to feel loved by a man, sex is usually not an issue. But if we don't know how to love each other, we don't know our jobs, like priorities. If you're a man, what is your number one priority on this earth? What is it? Is it God? Is it your job? Is it making money? Is it becoming successful? Because that's where you're going to put your energy, is into that. It wasn't my marriage. And so that's not where I put my energy. Now, that's where I focus all my energy. Because I found that to have a good relationship with God, I must have a good relationship with his daughter. You know, not only is he my father, he's my father-in-law. And that's his daughter that I'm married to. And so if I want to have a good relationship with God, it starts by having a good relationship with his daughter. You know, God even says, don't tell me you love me who you have never seen when my daughter is right there with you, or you could say husband is right there with you and does not feel loved by you. He says, you're a liar. So the key to having a good relationship with God is having a good relationship with the person beside you. That's where it begins. With your husband or your wife feeling loved by you. Now, what separates us sexually, first of all, is not having good communication. And we won't have good communication if you don't know your job. Now, my job as a husband is for my wife to feel loved by me so I can have a good relationship with her and God. Her number one job is for her husband, who happens to be me, to feel loved by her so that she can have a good relationship with me and God. Does that make sense? That's why we both define success. If she feels loved by me and God feels loved by me, I am a successful man on this earth. And you know what? I'll then be a blessed man by God, because he blesses those who bless him. And I bless him by loving those who he loves and obeying his commands. So my definition of success has changed dramatically. It has no resemblance to what it used to be. So not knowing our jobs causes separation. Not knowing how to love each other causes separation. Not knowing our priorities. Making your job your number one priority. Having friends your number one priority. Friends were very important to me when I got married. I wouldn't give them up for her. I refused to give my friends up for my wife. Wrong priority. How do you think she felt? She said, I don't want you to have a relationship with that person anymore. Well, you got a problem. I'm not giving it up. Separation between her and I. I will be one with someone else and not be one with her. You see that? Wrong priorities. Not understanding submission. How well do you think my wife felt by me when I would never do anything she asked me to do? Do you do the things that your wife asks you to do? And if you're a wife, do you do the things that your husband asks you to do? It's called submission. You know, submission is defined as voluntarily doing what you've been asked by another to do. Voluntarily doing it. And your want to has got nothing to do with it. I don't do the things for my wife because I want to do it. To be quite frank with you, about 70% of the stuff that she asked me to do, I don't want to do. But she doesn't know that. That's why it's called sacrifice. And I go and do what I don't want to do when I don't want to do it with the right attitude so that she feels loved by me. I don't tell her I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. What kind of love's that? She said, just forget it. I don't want you to do it. I'm not pretending. You call it right attitude. It's called sacrifice. So God's love flows through it. And another reason that causes separation between us, which means bad sex, is not meeting each other's needs. You know, I am the other half of her and she's the other half of me. She depends on me to meet many of her needs, and I depend on her to meet many of my needs. And if she doesn't do it, I can't go outside of the marriage to get someone else to meet my needs and it be holy, and she can't go outside the marriage to get someone to meet her needs and it be holy. I need to be available to listen to her and to talk to her and have conversation with her. She shouldn't be doing that with someone outside the marriage because I'm too busy to listen to her, or I don't want to listen to her, or because I got other priorities that I'm not available. And I shouldn't have to go outside the marriage to talk to somebody because she's not available and doesn't want to be interrupted. You know, if I'm watching that stupid television and maybe a show that I really like, and I do like a lot, there's a couple of shows I really like, and I don't want to be interrupted, but when she says, sweetheart, you know what I do? I go, mute. I go, yes, darling, with a good attitude. Do I want to mute that and go, yes, darling, with a good attitude? No, but she doesn't know that. And when I mute that with a good attitude and look at her and make eye contact, how does she feel? You bet she does. I made a sacrifice, and God's love just flowed through that to her, and she felt loved by me. And I didn't want to do it. So I don't do these things because I want to do it. I do it because God commands me to submit to her, sacrifice for her. And He commands her to submit to me and sacrifice to me. She does many things for me that she doesn't want to do, and I don't know it. She's not pretending. Well, I'm not pretending. We do it with the right attitude. We meet each other's needs. Now, another thing that causes a lack of sex is feelings of being dirty. If something happened to you, whether you're male or female, you may feel like sex is dirty. You may have absolutely no desire for sex. You may have numbness. You may not be able to achieve an orgasm. You might not be able to have an ejaculation. You may not be able to have an erection. You may have premature ejaculations. You may have all kinds of sex problems. If you are married and you have problems with sex, you're not having that problem all by yourself. You're not. Both of you are suffering from that problem. And if you've got a problem like that, and you're still able to meet your spouse's needs, do so. Just because you don't temporarily have a need because of this problem does not remove the need of your spouse. It does not remove it. They still have that need. And you, if you're married to them, are the only person they can turn to meet this need in a holy way. And your want to has got nothing to do with it. You are commanded by God to do it. And if you don't meet their needs, you are in sin. Yeah, you're in sin by not meeting the needs of your spouse. And you can give all kinds of excuses. Well, I have no desire. I don't want to. I don't feel like it. I'm not loved by them. That's indifferent. You're commanded to do it anyway. Did you know that? Deliberately withholding sex is sin. Now the scripture for that is 1 Corinthians 6, 3 through 5. It says this: the husband should fulfill his marital duty. That's a big word, duty. That sounds something like something you must have to do that you don't really want to do, doesn't it? And that's what we've been talking about. You may not want to. You may not feel like it. You may not have a sexual urge. You may have a sexual problem. Therefore, this may be a duty to you. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. This could be a duty for her. She may not want to. The wife's body does not belong to her alone, but also to her husband. In the same way, the husband's body does not belong to him alone, but also to his wife. Do not, this is pretty strong, do not deprive each other, except for a time that you may devote yourself to prayer. In other words, you have agreed to fast from sex for a certain time, and you're going to pray during that time instead of have sex. Okay? It says, then come together again so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. In other words, it doesn't make any difference if you want to have sex or not. Okay? And if you're a female and you're married to a jerk like I used to be, you probably don't want to. Okay? Or if you're a male and you feel so dishonored and disrespected by your spouse, you may not want to either. But according to God, it's indifferent. Your want to has nothing to do with obeying God. And this is a commandment of God to meet your spouse's needs. Because you know what? Your spouse has got absolutely no one else to turn to for this need to be met in a holy way. Lord, Jean can't go back home to her mom and dad and say, Jean's not having sex with me. Dad, would you help me with this? Mom, would you help me with this? Brother, would you help me with this? Pastor, would you help me with this? Counselor, would you help me with this? My boss, would you help me? She can't do it. And neither can I. She's the only one that can meet my sexual needs and it still be holy. And I'm the only one that can meet her needs and it still be holy. Okay? That's strong. Therefore, it may just be a duty because I don't want to and she don't want to, but we're going to meet our duty so that we are covered. Because you know what? She's my spiritual covering. I am her spiritual covering. If she's not meeting my needs, Satan can tip me, and it may be beyond my self-control because it's been so long. Now, that's not a free pass to commit adultery. But it helps you to understand why men do. It helps you to understand why women do. Because that need does not go away. And if it's not going to go away and the need's not being met, then it makes it understandable how that could happen, doesn't it? It doesn't make it right. It's still sin, but it makes it understandable. Because you know, a person normally does not commit adultery alone. The person who has withheld sex from them has deeply contributed to that by their sin. Do you see this? So normally when a man goes outside the marriage, now I'm not saying in all cases, this is not a blanket statement, there's exceptions, but normally a man whose sexual needs are being met by his wife on a regular basis, who feels honored and respected by his wife, does not commit adultery. Normally, a woman who feels connected to her husband emotionally and her sexual needs are being met on a regular basis does not commit adultery. I know there's exceptions to that, but that's the norm. If all your needs were being met by your spouse and you feel deeply connected to them and all your sexual needs were being met every week, would you commit adultery? How many would? Let's have a count. And that's none. That's the norm. We don't. Why would you? Why would you go outside the marriage when all your needs are being met within the marriage? Meeting your spouse's sexual needs has nothing to do with them deserving it. You may be really mad at your spouse. They may be keeping a record of wrongs. They may not be spiritually connected to you, emotionally connected to you. But the scripture says this, do not repay evil for evil or insult with insult, but with a blessing. You're to bless that spouse instead of getting even with that spouse. Meet that spouse's sexual needs. Now the scripture says, let's go back. The husband is to fulfill the marital duty to his wife. Can you think of a reason why he shouldn't do that? What would be a reason? Can you think of one? The wife is to fulfill her marital duty to her husband. Can you think of a reason that she should not do that? Remember, this is a command of God. Can you think of a reason she should disobey God and not do this? Husbands, can you think of a reason? Wives, can you think of a reason why we should disobey God and not meet your spouse's sexual needs? Even if they're a jerk. This is tough, isn't it? It's really tough if you're a female. It really is. You know, I have began to really understand women in a supernatural way. I am a defender of women. I really am. Most couples, when they come here, are very surprised when I look at him and say, the reason you've got the marriage the way you've got is because you're not being the spiritual leader of your home. It's not her fault that she feels the way that she feels. It may not be your fault either. They're surprised when I say that. It may not be your fault either. You may not just know your job, but I'm going to teach you your job. And once I taught you your job, and if you don't do your job, then it's your fault. Because it's not your fault if you don't know, is it? God says, my people perish from lack of knowledge. We don't know what to do. And most of us as husbands and wives don't know our job. The wife's body also belongs to her husband for his sexual needs to be met. The husband's body also belongs to his wife for his needs to be met. The husband is not to deprive his body to his wife. The wife is not to deprive her body from her husband. Through mutual consent, they may fast sex for a short period agreed upon time. The agreement to fast sex should be for a specific period of time. And as soon as that specific period of time is up, you're to fulfill your marital duty to each other again. Okay? Now, again, we call a duty something you really don't want to do. That's why it's called a duty, isn't it? It's something you don't really want to do. So that's for a marriage where one of them or both of them doesn't feel loved. And even if you don't feel loved by each other, You still got to obey God in this specific area. Now, a lot of women say, you know, it ought to be spontaneous. How do you define spontaneous? Anybody got a definition of spontaneous? It just happens. Yeah, just happens. Didn't mean for it to, it just happened. You know, a spontaneous combustion. Poof! It just caught on fire. How many believe in spontaneous sex? Nobody? Well, you know, if there's such a thing as spontaneous sex, we couldn't get it like this because someone may be spontaneously having sex. Oh, we didn't mean for it to happen. Close your eyes. We don't mean for it to happen. It's just happening over here. Whoa! Would that be right? You couldn't go to the movies. Especially the movies. Man, a lot of spontaneous things could be happening there. You couldn't take your kids to the mall. Close them up. Spontaneous over there. Go over there too. You have to have blinders for your kids. You know, lead them around. All these spontaneous things happening. You know, even when you thought it was spontaneous, it wasn't spontaneous. One of you had that thing planned. Spontaneous. You know, we plan everything that's important in life, don't we? Do you just happen to go to church on a Thursday afternoon saying, hope they got a service? You just spontaneously going to church. I'm going to spontaneously go to church, hope they got a service on Thursday afternoon. Doggone it, they don't have one. Let's spontaneously have one. Let's call some people together and let's have a spontaneous service. You don't just spontaneously go to the doctor at 1 o'clock in the morning and hope he's going to be there, do you? Why isn't he here? I spontaneously came here. He could spontaneously come and doctor me. Don't we plan things that are important? It is silly, isn't it? But don't we plan important things? Don't you plan to get up on Sunday morning and go to church? You didn't just spontaneously wake up. Oh, it's Sunday morning. I think I'll spontaneously go to church. You planned that. When you call the doctor, you make an appointment with him and you plan to go there. You just don't go to the grocery store and say, I don't know how I got here, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm just spontaneously going to shop. You plan to go shopping. Everything that's important we plan. Is not this thing that's the most personal thing that a husband and wife can do on this earth, should that be planned? Because you know what happens when it's not planned? You already know the answer. Nothing. hardly nothing happens because we didn't plan it. Because if you don't plan it, you know, about 9 o'clock at night, after she's been driving the kids all over to soccer and she's been to the doctor's office with kids and one kid's vomited in the car and she had to clean that up and she's went to the principal because another kid was in trouble and she went to the PTA meeting, you know, and she's fixed dinner and you come in and say, hey, baby, something spontaneous is going to happen tonight. Don't think so. Don't think so. No, it's not. Now, if you had planned it on a day that all those things weren't happening in her life, then something might happen that seemed like it was spontaneous, but it wasn't. Because you planned it. But we need to be planning important things in our life. You know, Gene Wagstaff, back to being the jerk, was trying to hit a home run every night. Wham! Every chance I got. And that's why she got up and left. That's why she pushed me away. I'm always trying to hit a home run. But if you know that if she told me 2 nights a week you can hit a home run, do you think that I would be swinging every chance I got? No. I'd leave her alone. Because I would know that something was going to happen those 2 nights. So she would begin to welcome me sitting beside her. She'd begin to welcome my arm around her because it's not about sex anymore. You see? The reason I'm sitting there, now she knows, is because I love her and she would welcome my arm around her because I'm not trying to cop a feel. You see? I'm not trying to have sex because I know that that's going to happen on this night or that morning or that evening. I know it's going to happen. You see? And that cuts out all those arguments and problems that you're having. You know, God said, my people perish from lack of vision, right? We don't have a vision. You know what a vision is? It's an agreement. Her and I have a vision. We think alike about the same area. So we've made an agreement that on this night and that night, this is going to happen. That's agreement, isn't it? You know, anywhere that you're not in agreement, and then we're going to have that teaching next week, the two are not one. The teaching next week is how two people become one. Because when God separated Adam from Eve, the first thing he said, now the two of you become one again. And we have no idea how to do that, do we? How do we become one? Well, one of the areas is through agreement. Because if we do not have an agreement about sex, we are not one in that area, are we? We are separated. It's causing a problem. So, when I counsel people, you two are not married, so I don't want to ask you. You guys are married. Okay. Can I use you as an example? Will that be okay? You sure? Okay. Let's say that we're in a counseling situation. Okay. So, let's say that they're having problems with sex. I know that you're not. Okay. Whoops. Let's get another couple. Well, this will work well if you are. Okay. Because we can work this out. Okay. All right. Let's pretend that they're having problems with sex. Okay. He's a jerk and she don't respect and honor him. Okay. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't want to know. Let's don't bring that up. Okay? Now, so I'll say, and I've given them this teaching. Now, we need to have agreement. So I will say, sir, if you could have sex with your wife as often as you wanted to, every week, how often would that be?
3 times.
Okay. Ma'am, if you could have sex with him as often as you wanted to, how often would that be?
3 times.
You made it too easy. Okay. Well, let's say you messed me up here. Let's say that she said 1 time. Okay.
4 times.
1 time. You're really messing me up.
1 time.
All right, 1 time. All right. So she said 1 time. He said 3 times. Okay. Now we need to go through a negotiation process here, don't we? Which means he may not get her way. He may not get his way. You really got me messed up. He may not get his way of 3 times, and she may not get her way of 1 time. Okay? So we've got to negotiate. So we said, okay, there's a number in the middle here of twice. Would you agree to meet his needs twice a week instead of once?
Yes.
If she met your needs twice a week, would that be satisfactory to you? Because right now it's 0. Of course it is. You betcha, hallelujah. So most men go, yes, I'll agree. Any number. Okay, then what we want to do is to go, we want to further this agreement. Because anywhere where it's blurred, where you don't have agreement, Satan's going to get in. Okay? So, sir, if you could have that twice a week, any night that you wanted it, or morning or afternoon, what would you choose?
Sundays and Thursdays.
What time?
Can I hear what time?
It's Thursday, isn't it?
Thursday at 9:05.
At 9:05. There's something spontaneous going to happen in the parking lot. You know, it might be spontaneous after all. All right. Sundays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock. Okay. Ma'am, would you agree to meet his needs on Sundays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock?
On Sundays, not Thursdays.
What other day would you have other than Thursday? Because you said twice.
Fridays.
Sir?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Men are usually easy with this. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's share this because, there should be one night that belongs to you and one night belongs to her. So if you had a choice of Monday, did you say Sunday? Sunday and Thursday, or Sunday and Friday is what we're at right now. If you had a choice of Sunday or Friday, which would be your first choice?
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay. Now, we've agreed to Sunday and Friday. So what we're going to do is make Sunday your night at 9 o'clock. And we're going to make Friday your turn. Okay? So, when would you like for this to happen on Friday? What time?
Friday morning. Kids are at school.
A morning girl. A morning girl. We don't get many morning girls in counseling. But I can understand. The kids are going to be in school. What time would you like for this to happen on Friday morning? Girl?
9 o'clock, 10,
Okay, this is going to make it easy. It's the same time, but a different
9.
PM and AM. Sir, would you agree to meet her need? Okay, now a little bit further here. Now, what we've got an agreement so far is that she's going to meet his needs on Sunday night at 9 p.m. and you're going to meet her needs on Friday morning at 9 a.m. Now, on his night, we're going to call his night Sunday night. Guess who initiates?
Me.
Exactly. You're the initiator. There's nothing worse than agreeing to this happening and both of you laying in bed going,
When's it going to happen?
waiting for the other one, right? And about 3 hours later, and you wake up, oh man, what? Bad day, bad day, bad day. So, you want to you want to get Satan out of this thing completely. You want to make sure you got a complete agreement. So, on Sunday night at 9 p.m., you're going to meet his needs and you're going to be the initiator. Agreed?
Yes.
All right. Guess who initiates on Friday morning?
Me.
You already had it planned, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Now, so on Sunday night, you are the initiator, which means that your job is to make sure that he's been pleasured in the way that he wants to be pleasured, but you get a, what you call it? A what?
Rain check.
A rain check. No, not a rain check. A mutual benefit.
Yes.
Okay. Now, on Friday morning, you are the initiator and you pleasure her in the way that she wants to be pleasured and you get a mutual benefit. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Shake on it. Hug on it. Kiss on it. I agree. All right. Now, things can happen in life. He's going to write it down. You'll get it notarized. Now, things happen in life, okay? There's sickness, relatives, out of town, whatever. You don't feel good, don't feel like it, okay? So if something happens on Sunday night that you're not able to fulfill this obligation, he shouldn't lose. It just goes to the next night, okay? Now, this is going to be difficult for him because the kids are going to be home on Saturday morning. But, and then Monday night, you would be the initiator still, okay? So he doesn't lose. Now, since Friday mornings is your time, if it goes to the next one, it's going to be Saturday morning. So we're going to need an alternate time, obviously, for Saturday. When would that be?
So Saturday night.
Lock the door.
Yeah, just lock the door.
Go downstairs.
We got 2 doors between us and the kids. We're good.
He's got the answer. All right. So she doesn't lose, okay? We lock the door. The kids can bang on all they
We
want.
got 2 doors between us and the kids. It'll be fine.
All right.
Doors.
Okay, so we want to work it out through negotiation, okay? Now, this could be a duty because she may not feel like it. It may be a duty because he doesn't feel like it. But they're meeting each other's sexual needs through this duty, okay? And if he's a wise man, he'll listen to what I have taught him, and his wife will feel loved by him, and it will not be a duty. You see this? Yeah. Now, there's certain things that are not acceptable, okay? No third person. You don't bring a third person into a sexual relationship, either physically or with pornography or fantasy. Okay? That's not acceptable. This is a time of holiness. All right? No bestiality. It's forbidden by God. You do not withhold yourself. You never command or control your spouse to do something that they're not comfortable in doing or they don't want to do. Okay? If Lord says, I'm not comfortable in doing that and I don't want to do that, and if I say, I want you to do that anyway, that's not love. That's not love. It has nothing to do with love. That's something within me that I need to go get counseled about. That's be up above and beyond what she's supposed to be doing for me. Okay? I need to seek counseling. And that reminds me, if you have one of those sexual problems that we talked about, that you can't have an orgasm, you can't have an ejaculation, it takes you 20 minutes to have an ejaculation, that you have premature ejaculation, or that you feel sex is dirty and you avoid sex, get counseling for that. We know how to fix that here, literally. Okay? It's just an issue in your mind. All issues are in the mind, coming from your past of things that's happened to you, and every one of those can be fixed through counseling. Okay? Please seek counseling. You're not suffering with that issue by yourself. Okay? Do never shame your spouse for the way that they're meeting your needs. Never compare them to anyone else that you've ever been with. Well, I knew a girl in 1969, and boy, I tell you, she could do it good, and you're just not good as her. Well, don't expect. Now you're really going to be in counseling. Okay? Never, ever. Or a divorce attorney, yeah. And never tell your spouse that they shouldn't have a sexual need. You know, you keep telling you're just a horny old man, you're a dirty old man. Well, he's going to stop asking. And when he stops asking, your real marriage is really in trouble then. Because he's just pushed you away. He's replaced you with something or somebody. Okay? Does it make it right? If you have not been meeting each other's needs, then when you go home, or within the next several days, ask each other to forgive. Ask for forgiveness. Don't start pointing your finger. I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. Ask for forgiveness. Don't blame each other. I didn't know. I'm going to start meeting your needs now. I'm sorry that I didn't. Let's make this agreement. Will you forgive me? And then forgive each other. And then make an agreement to meet these needs. Okay? Any questions about sex and marriage? Everybody look like deer in the headlights here. I'm not going to ask a question about that. Any questions? Okay, that concludes this teaching for tonight. Thank you.